Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Ron, and my wife is Melissa. In today's video, we're on day 5 of a Royal Caribbean 12-day cruise to the Caribbean, where we'll be visiting 5 different islands over the next few days. Today, we're in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, and we booked an excursion to Buck Island, which is a U.S. national monument off the northeast coast of St. Croix. To get there, we'll be crossing the island of Frederiksted to the historic town of Christiansted. I believe I'm saying that right. From there, we're going to be taking a 10 to 15 minute boat ride along the northern shore to get to Buck Island Beach to practice a little snorkeling. There's a little bit rainy, and hopefully we get a break. You can see the clouds are kind of rolling in and out, so hopefully keep the camera gear dry.
More water, please.
Now, this is my first time ever snorkeling, so let me tell you how things went. In short, not so good. So the day we went snorkeling, it was raining intermittently with breaks in the sun in between the rain showers, but overall it was a pretty nice day. There are 228 plant species identified on Buck Island, so it's worth noting that there's also dangerous vegetation growing on the island if you're thinking of visiting, something I wasn't aware of. Something I found out only after setting foot on the island, and the captain from the boat kind of yelled across the bow towards the people out on the beach saying, "Hey, get away from that tree." So later we found out that the tree, it's a poisonous tree. It's called the manchineel tree. Apparently the leaves, the sap, and the fruit from the tree, it looks like small green apples, but apparently it's extremely poisonous. Any contact with this particular tree, again, the sap, the leaves, the bark, or the fruit can cause chemical burns and blistering. Yeah, even the water, apparently the raindrops dripping off the tree can cause your skin to blister. After spending a little time snorkeling right off the beach of the Buck Island, we headed out to the Reef. The entire monument encompasses a total of about 40,000 acres of land, the sea, the coral reef there. So we got out to the Reef, and the boat captain gave us a little overview of where we were supposed to be swimming, pointing out to stay in the front of the boat because there was some other small boats in the area. So we all jumped into the water. I had my GoPro 7 Hero Black all ready to go. By the way, if you use the GoPro Hero7 Black, in the water, make sure that you lock the screen, otherwise the recording settings could accidentally change. The LCD on the back of the camera is water sensitive, so you have to lock down your screen to prevent the settings from changing while in the water. Okay, so after we got into the water, I started following one of the staff members who was going to take us around the reef on like a guided tour. Everything's apparently marked out in the reef, so you can kind of stay on a path. Now, being my first time snorkeling, I thought this sounded pretty easy. Well, we got about 30 yards from the boat, and I poked my head up to see, kind of where we were going, and that's when I started to get really nervous. So I'm looking at the island, and I'm looking at the boat, and I'm thinking, whoa, I'm way outside my comfort zone here. So I was having trouble breathing and feeling like I wasn't able to really catch my breath. So I'm seeing the group ahead of me still paddling away from the boat, or snorkeling away from the boat, and I started heading back to the boat. So needless to say, I was a little over my head the first time out. I made it back to the boat, but I don't recommend this particular excursion if it's your first time snorkeling. If you're a more experienced snorkeler, hey, go for it. Let's just say I was expecting it to be closer to the beach for my first time out. Melissa went out with one of the guides who towed her around the reef area, held on to her with one of those circular life rafts, and just kind of pulled her through the water so she could just kind of, glide along the top of the water and check out the reef, which was kind of nice. So she told me that she saw a barracuda while she was snorkeling just a few feet from her, but we didn't get any of that video. Sorry about that. I was just happy to have made it back to the boat. Okay, so again, I don't recommend this particular tour if you're new to snorkeling, though I felt a little embarrassed when I saw these two kids, probably 8 and 10 years old, who were out snorkeling and having a good old time. Although I did hear from the captain later that a lot of bigger guys sometimes have difficulty relaxing in the water and snorkeling. I think this has something to do with the amount of air that you're actually getting through the mask, through the snorkel valve. It's definitely an unusual, uncomfortable feeling if you've never done it before. So word of advice, if you're going to go snorkeling on an excursion like this Buck Island excursion that Melissa and I had done, I'd strongly recommend getting some practice closer to the shoreline, really getting very, very comfortable in the water. We only spent a little time on the beach area and then headed right out into the waves far away from the beach. So, and it was choppy, like I said, and it was raining, so that didn't exactly help with, you know, my particular comfort level. So you guys may be much more experienced at this than I was, but this is just my personal experience. So I can tell you that I got much more comfortable in the water later in our trip, a couple days in. This was the first island that we stopped in, and this was my first time snorkeling. Now I'm 51 years old, so this is my first time doing it. So take that for what it's worth. Oh, another thing worth noting is one of the other guests who was on this tour did come back to the boat with a big coral burn on their thigh. Apparently there was some fire coral in the reef as well. If you're not familiar with fire coral, it can cause skin burns, rash, and itching. So from what I've learned, fire coral is typically encountered off the Florida coast, the Caribbean reefs, and across Bermuda. Now, you're not supposed to touch any of the coral, but I believe he accidentally brushed up against some parts of the reef where the water was very shallow. It may have been another type of coral burn or rash, but I'm suspecting it was fire coral. So don't touch any of the coral is the bottom line. Unless you really know what you're doing, you don't want to touch anything. It can either, from what I understand, kill the reef, but it can also cause rash or burns, a lot of it, if you don't know what it is in the water itself. So it took me a few times out during our vacation to get more comfortable snorkeling, so pace yourself if you're snorkeling and it's something that you're really interested in doing. It's a good time, just pace yourself. So Melissa got a little seasick on the boat ride out to the reef, but let's just say that the fish got a nice little lunch out of it. Enough said there. So after the reef tour, we headed back to the mainland. I was really hoping to see some sea turtles during our snorkeling excursion, but no such luck. However, Melissa was able to capture a few shots with her camera of a sea turtle, so I'll put that up here, who was hanging out near the cruise ship when we were coming off the boat. So unfortunately, that was the only time we really got to see the sea turtles, was when we were in port and they were kind of popping up sporadically near the ship. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any really nice footage with my GoPro in the water snorkeling. It was really something I was hoping to get, but is what it is. It was a little windy the day we were in St. Croix, but I did manage to get a little Mavic Air footage, so I hope you enjoyed what we were able to get. If you missed part 1 of this series of videos, I'll post the link here, or maybe here. The next video I post will be the day we spent in St. John's, Antigua, and our Antigua Crusoe Island escape to Prickly Pear Island. The water there was crystal clear blue, so stay tuned for that video. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. You can also follow me on Instagram, and if you're an active subscriber, I do thank you. If you're not an active subscriber, I hope you'll think about subscribing. And until next time, happy flying.